One important part of writing a D&D setting is figuring out how the decisions you make as a DM will impact your world. And while a low magic setting won't likely be too heavily impacted by cantrips, the cultures and societies of mid to high magic worlds will certainly be impacted by any number of their citizens having access to spells they can cast infinitely, no matter how simple they are. In a world where you can be born with natural arcane powers, study to learn spells, or receive magic from a deity or archfey, at the very least, the cities and metropolises of pro-magic kingdoms and empires should be using magic in interesting ways to further their societies. Right? Let's start with one that's not too complicated just to get the idea across. Mold Earth is a simple spell available to wizards, sorcerers, and druids, which means it's also available to nature clerics. It's got some neat abilities that only last an hour. For one, you can target a 5 cubic foot area of stone or dirt to turn into difficult terrain, or target some difficult terrain to turn into regular ground. You can also change the shape and color of the ground to create images, words, or anything else you can think of. But the part I care about is that it allows you to move the same 5-foot area of loose earth up to 5 feet away, instantly excavating it. While that might sound like it's only good for building a Minecraft dirt hut, it would be really useful for farming and agriculture. Think about it. Nowhere in the spell's description does it say the dirt has to be arranged in the same configuration as when you initially cast the spell to move the earth. So effectively, you can aerate and till a 5-foot area of dirt instantly with just an action. That's 6 seconds at most. And it remains that way. The other portions of the spell dissipate after an hour. Even if you think you can't rearrange the dirt in one casting of the spell, multiple uses will certainly get the job done. It would take maybe 3 to 4 actions, which is still incredibly efficient. That plus shape water from the same druids, sorcerers, and wizards for just a little bit of water bending means you don't have to worry about irrigation either. And hey, why not throw a little bit of druidcraft on there to kickstart your crops? Speaking of shape water, any Arcane tavern with just a little ingenuity could easily stack a bunch of ice cube trays in a 5-foot cube, and then have a spellcaster freeze all the water in that area for the next hour. And now you have fantasy ice cubes with a magical twist. And sure, those ice cubes will turn back into water after an hour, but have you seen real ice cubes? They do that too. Also at the Arcane tavern, there should be trays of food and drink being carried around on mage hands, floating through the air. Food that has been magically enhanced to taste better with Prestidigitation. Speaking of Prestidigitation, they could use that or create bonfire to be sending out flaming dishes to tables. I'm talking about baked Alaska, fiery cocktails, a crepe Suzette, crepe Suzette. Or what about making some magical dishes that we can't have in our world? What if they have a specialty drink that has the light cantrip cast on it so it would lightly glow as you drank it? After all, D&D is about wish fulfillment, and I know we've all wanted to drink the forbidden juice they keep in glow sticks. So why are you as a DM not doing that? Let your players drink the glow stick juice. Not only will it make your world feel more full and alive, but it'll make for some fun and memorable moments at your table. A little extra flavor goes a long way. We've already begun to look a little at Prestidigitation, and that's kind of like the poster child for simple spells that have a lot of cool little uses, so let's keep diving into it. Like I said, it can be used to enhance the flavor of food, but it can also cool it down or warm it up, which would also be pretty useful at that Arcane tavern. You can also cast it to conjure up some harmless sensory effects like a puff of wind, some musical notes, or a little bit of confetti, because what's not made better by little pieces of paper floating through the air, especially when you can immediately clean it up using the same spell. With Prestidigitation, you can instantly clean an object within 1 cubic foot, or you can also make it dirty and stinky, but that's only for the nastiest wizards. So an enterprising sorcerer could easily open a laundromat to make a quick buck. And in sufficiently advanced arcane societies, there should definitely be someone just going around casting Prestidigitation to clean up public spaces. Or if you want to emphasize that the society has inequities among the different socioeconomic groups, then only the richer, more opulent areas of the city ever actually get magically cleaned, while other areas are left to get dirty in the wayside. See, now you're using the world building to incorporate hypothetical themes from your campaign into the setting. Isn't that great? I thought so. Oh, also the Arcane Tavern would be using the cleaning to wash off their dishes, pots, and pans, of course. Or perhaps on the more devious side, a murderer is going around casting Prestidigitation to remove fingerprints and other pieces of evidence from their crime scenes. Speaking of spells with multiple uses, Thaumaturgy is actually only available to clerics, but tieflings get it automatically. Let's say there's a community built on an infernal rift, so all of its occupants are tieflings. They would have no use for a doorknob. One of the uses of Thaumaturgy is it just lets you open a door with a whim, so they wouldn't need to bother with latches and doorknobs. They can just Open doors. Also, one of my friends pointed out that Thaumaturgy makes clerics and tieflings ideal town criers, thanks to the fact that it lets you amplify your voice threefold. So maybe there's some animosity between a religious order and a group of tiefling newsies, both trying to spread different messages to the people of their city. And actually, that's all I've got for Thaumaturgy, so if you've got other ideas, let me know in the comments. But that brings us to our last cantrip for the day, and it's gonna be Message. That allows a user to point at a creature within 120 feet to whisper something directly into their head. And if they wish to, the target can reply back. On its own, it's pretty great for a group of adventurers trying to keep an open line of communication even while separated. But let's say you're in a world dominated by capitalist greed, because I wouldn't know anything about that. Big businesses would be hiring young mages all the time to cast message on passersby to put a little ad read directly in their brain. It's invasive and uncomfortable, but let's be real, if a corporation could put an ad directly in your brain in our world, they'd be doing it. Or what about this? Some infrastructure in the message spell would change the game for any city or settlement in a medieval setting. With a network of towers and mages, they'd be able to get information to travel at an otherwise impossibly impressive pace. Even if the mages were just stationed along the city wall, they would still be making an incredible, though admittedly rudimentary telecommunication system that would only be hampered by the fact that it is a literal game of telephone. And sure, some higher level citizens might be able to cast sending to get information to anyone they want on this plane or another, but not everyone has third level spell slots. Giving common folk the ability to get information from one side of the city to the other by the rules of D&D is a fun and interesting way to enhance your world. And ultimately, isn't that all we're trying to do here? And that's all I've got for you. If you've got any other ideas on how some of these cantrips or other spells might impact a setting, let me know in the comments. And other than that, like and subscribe all at once by casting Prestidigitation. Or, just, press the buttons.